I previously spoke about people being spiritually minded to the point where they're no earthly good. And I think I need to provide a couple more examples of how that is being played out today. And I'm going to touch on relationships a little bit. Okay, it's going to get a little delicate. Now, I knew of a couple, they're now divorced. They got married shortly out of college. And neither one of them were saved at the time. They both had good backgrounds, but they weren't fully committed to God. And they were able to, build a family and be able to live well. And at some point or another, the woman in the relationship decided she was going to get saved. And eventually the husband decided he was going to start going to church as well. They didn't get saved at the same time. So I think you guys know where this is going. Well, on a basic level, putting it lightly, these two were extremely sexually attracted to each other from the jump. I mean, they had a very healthy physical relationship before marriage. They had a very healthy physical relationship after marriage, to the point where other couples were just like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe when the two of them are in the room. It was that on. And when the woman decided to join the church, I have no idea what was told to her. I don't know what was, given to her as information, but apparently somebody gave her some kind of twisted doctrine and gave her the impression that she didn't need to be sexually involved as much as she was with her husband anymore, which I don't get that. Now, if you're unmarried, that's a different story, but these people are already married, had been for several years. And she started withdrawing the amount of sexual activity that she was involved in, and all of her free time. The romance was gone. All of her free time was always religious or church related. And from time to time, the husband would go and be involved in her activities. And for a while, he did go all the way in. But then he realized that personal life was suffering in the bedroom. So I guess you guys kind of guess what happened eventually. It got to the point where they started having arguments about it. She started talking about how much of a sinner he was and how he needs to get converted like she was. And they were arguing about the level of the intensity that she is with the church. And he was hesitant for a while because he had reservations. And eventually he wound up having an affair. And I'm not saying what he did was right. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just giving you a scenario as to what's going on. It's like he was living with a different person. And he didn't have any peace when he got home. He didn't have that affection. That partner that he had that he was so crazy about, and that was human, and that was affectionate, and that was supportive. All of a sudden they became a dictator. They became a person who was self-righteous, nitpicky, argumentative, all in the sake of God, all in the sake of religion, all in the sake of saying, you need to get saved because we're being unequally yoked. Well, I mean, if you look at the situation from the outside, they're right. You are being unequally yoked. But the thing is that you changed up on this man that you were with all these years. How is he supposed to react? So you figured by doing that, that will bully him into joining you in whatever cause that you're getting involved in. And like I said, I still have a problem with whatever doctrine they drilled into her, telling her that being sexually active with your husband in a healthy way was bad. I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know. I mean, I don't get that. I don't remember seeing that anywhere. I see a lot of passages in the Bible where they talk about submission and showing love and affection to each other, but I haven't seen where when you get saved, all of a sudden you're supposed to just pull the cookie back. Bible scholars help me with this one because, but anyway, those are the consequences as to what happens when you are so spiritually minded, you're no earthly good. This man felt like he was living with a stranger. He was in a moment of weakness, and of course, when we're at our moment of weakness, that's when that temptation comes in, And his flesh took over and he succumbed to it. And of course, after everything played out, he was made to look like the bad guy, and she was the victim. And nobody really called her on the carpet on it. You know, like I said, I'm not advocating the fact that he did cheat. But considering the background as to what's going on, I could just imagine the level of confusion and disappointment that he had in his mind, and that kind of breaks a person down. And they feel vulnerable, excuse me. And they feel vulnerable. So when you're vulnerable like that emotionally, you're not aware of your surroundings like you should be aware of them. And your sense of awareness is just not high at all. And so you're at that level, and people that you would otherwise not pay attention to all of a sudden become interesting. That's all I have to say about that. So it can ruin your life. It can ruin your life. And as I stated before, being that high-minded to that level, you're discouraging people who are seeking a spiritual relationship. You really are. And you got to be careful with that. And also, you have a group of people that are out there that already hate what you stand for. And you're just justifying their hate. You're feeding into it. They're out here saying, see, I told you so. Look at that, look at that, look at that. They're having parties behind your foolishness. See, when you make a spiritual connection with God, you got to understand it is a huge deal. I tell people all the time, if you're not sure you're willing to commit on a level where you're willing to acknowledge him every day and develop a one-on-one relationship with him, don't do it. I tell folks, don't do it. Because you have to accept God for who he is. You got to study who he is and what he's about. And if you don't agree with what he is and who he's about, then, and you don't feel that you want to acknowledge him every day as a living God, and you don't want to be humble and show thanks for what you have, then don't pursue it. Don't fake the front. Because he's not Santa Claus, he's not the Easter Bunny, he's not some gift-giving goblin in the middle of the night. He's not some magician in the sky with a magic wand. He's not none of that. He's not an ATM machine, because you got a lot of these prosperity preachers running around here. All they talk about every time you go to church every Sunday is money, 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 taking scriptures out of the Bible, out of context, and just trying to get people to think that God is all about money. And that's something that I'm going to talk about a little bit later on too, because I have some stories for you about the level that they go to get money out of you. And this is stuff I was exposed to ever since I was a little kid. So it's going to be a juicy one. You're going to love this. But again, don't make yourself to the point where you're so spiritually high that you're no earthly good. You can't even talk to your old friends anymore or anything like that, because every single conversation is up in the sky somewhere. You can't talk about practical things anymore. Sometimes people use that as an excuse for not dealing with reality. They have something negative that goes on in their life, something traumatic, and the first thing they want to say is God's going to fix this and God's going to fix that. But they're not actively doing anything to change the situation. You're not seeking the help that you need to seek to fix it. Another case in point, and I'm going to let y'all go. Let's say there's somebody who is constantly behind in their rent. They're getting eviction notices every single month. They'll get the money at the last minute when they have to scrape. They're barely paying their bills, But they won't keep a job. There's a disconnect right there. They got to understand that, you need to have a job. You need to have a source of income in order to get those bills paid in the house. And if they don't get paid, then you won't have. Your lights will get cut off. You will not have any cable. You will get a voicemail special message on your cell phone because you can't make any calls. And there will be an eviction notice on your door. That's the way it goes if you don't pay these obligations. That's the way it goes. That's all it is to it. And some of these people will turn around, instead of accepting the reality of the fact that, number one, you need to get 2, 3 jobs just to get caught up. You'll sit there during the time that you're supposed to be working, and will sit there and say, oh, well, I'm a child of God, and I just have faith that it's going to work. I have faith that it's going to work. Okay, you sit there and have faith and keep saying that when the sheriff come to your house, and I don't know what state you live in and how they execute the warrants. Some states, the sheriff will come and watch you pack your stuff to move out. Some of them will put a lock on your door once you leave the house so you can't go back in. It just depends. But that's what's going to happen. Being spiritually minded to the point where you're no earthly good, nobody's going to be feeling you when you got that kind of drama going on every single time. So you got to let that stuff go. There's a real world out here, people, and it's not perfect. It's far from perfect. We got a lot of problems in this world. And in order for you to be an effective steward in whatever religion that you're in, Judaism, Muslim, Christianity, whatever the case may be, in order for you to be a good steward, you got to be able to get out in this world and function above and beyond what is required so you can be an example to the people who are lost. That's your number one job. And if you're out here failing at what non-believers, what they going to look to you for? Why should they look to you for anything? Why should they listen to anything you have to say about your religion if you're not even handling what you're supposed to handle on the basic level? Then you're going to turn around, and some of y'all will turn around after you know that you're messy. You're going to turn around and preach to somebody, really? You can't tell me nothing. Look at you. Look at you. Men running in and out your house. Half your kids don't know where the daddy is. Half your kids out all night long don't come home. Or you got parents you haven't seen or talked to them in ages. Not trying to build a relationship with them, but you're in the church for prayer meeting on Tuesday night, Bible study on Thursday night, special presentation on Saturday or rehearsal, and church on Sunday, and every single week. But how are you applying this? How are you applying this in your life to the point where it is a testimony to those who do not see it? You got to understand, in the world, they're not going to listen to what you have to say. They're going to look at what you do. And that's why being spiritually minded and being no earthly good is a waste. It's a total waste. Nobody's going to listen to you. So you got to be careful. Just saying.